Welcome everybody to Restaurant Recipe Recreations, a channel that serves up your favorite restaurant recipes right in your very own kitchen. On this channel, you'll find everything from Panera to P.F. Chang's and from Carrabba's to the Capitol Grill. But in this episode today, I have a special guest star. If you've been following me for any length of time, you may or may not know that I am married to a James Beard nominated chef. And while he's never made an appearance in any of my videos before, some of my viewers have commented in the comments section that they would like me to feature a video where I cook with my husband. So enter stage left. This is my husband, the James Beard nominated chef. So in this video, we are going to teach you how to create a classic lobster bisque. Well, I mean, in all honesty, he's actually going to be teaching you how to do it. I'm just here to look good. You're supposed to, you're natural.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want me to fill in or what.
He's making me nervous. He's like hovering over my shoulder over here. You wouldn't be able to tell from the lack of electricity that we've actually been married for like 23 years, but we've never done this together. And so it's feeling a little awkward, but I promise that we'll probably, I'll promise that we'll loosen up a little bit, kind of get that flow going. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. We've probably embarrassed ourselves enough at this point, and if you haven't already clicked off, well then kudos to you. And kind of tell the audience, like, what is a classic lobster bisque? And then how do they usually prepare it in American restaurants?
Sure. So a classic lobster bisque, and I know as of late there's been a lot of coverage on air and streaming services regarding Juliachild. Her recipe with Simone Beck from Mastering the Art of French Cooking covers lobster bisque in the most pure way, I think, certainly. Typically or classically, a lobster bisque would be thickened with rice, which we have here. More modernly, I think most restaurants now are thickening with either a roux, which is flour and butter, or a slurry, which is cornstarch and stock. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be doing the classic presentation and preparation of lobster bisque today, because quite honestly, it's as easy and it's lower in calories than you would with just heavy cream. You
mentioned when we were talking about making this video, you mentioned that this was from Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Juliachild.
That's right.
It's an adaptation of it. The ingredients and the technique are the same.
That's correct. Yeah, this will be more of a home preparation version, but certainly this is along the same lines as a classic presentation for lobster bisque. Absolutely.
Okay, so what does everybody need then to create this dish?
Sure.
Tell us what some of these ingredients are.
So the great thing about this dish is that really, no matter where you're living in the country, everybody has access now to cold water or Maine lobster tails. You find them in your freezer section. I mean, these come specifically from Walmart. You can get them anywhere. And if Walmart's carrying them, they're available nationwide.
And how many do you have here and what size are they?
So we have 4 to 5 ounce cold water lobster tails.
Okay. And so what else do you have here?
So then we've got along with this, you've got a classic, what the French refer to as a mirepoix. So this is your aromatic vegetables. You've got carrots. I have shallots, sweet onion, garlic, and celery. And that will be the basis for the flavor profile in this bisque.
And then obviously we have rice here. He mentioned that this is going to be thickened with rice as opposed to like a roux, because that's the classic traditional way to prepare it. Talk about the tomatoes. And although this looks like iced tea, it's actually not. It is a chicken stock. It's a homemade chicken stock that we made last night. The reason that it is so dark is that we put red onion in it for the aromatic when we made the chicken stock. Whole peeled, a 28-ounce can of whole peeled tomatoes. You need tomato paste. We've got here tarragon, and I noticed something that was in there. Okay, tarragon and thyme. And then a bottle of sherry, dry sherry.
That's right.
Okay, and I know that this is a bit of a departure from the other episodes on my channel, but you know what? I thought that this would be fun. I thought that you would enjoy it. I mean, certainly to learn from a James Beard nominated chef is kind of a special treat. Most people don't have access to that kind of knowledge and experience. He's been nominated as one of the best chefs of the Southeast of the United States, and he has presented 2 signature dinners at the James Beard House in New York. Not 1, but 2, and that's kind of like the Oscar awards of being a chef. And so it's a real treat. Let me know in the comments section if you'd like to see more videos like this with me working alongside him, and also some different ideas that you might have of what you would like to see him prepare and to teach you how to recreate in your own home. So without any more of that, let's go ahead and we're going to get started with the preparation of this classic lobster bisque.
So cutting the lobster tail, you're going to want to start with the pointy end of your knife at the base of the tail, the fan of the tail, keeping your palm and hand open, always open away from the blade. You'll just split it right down the middle, cutting it in half. So this process is really the most important process in the making of the lobster bisque. We are going to prepare the shellfish stock. So I have, as I said before, the shells of 5 lobster tails. I have a cup and a half of shallot and sweet onion. I have a cup and a half of celery and a cup and a half of carrots, as well as 5 whole garlic cloves. You want to keep all of this whole because we're going to roast this along with what I would guess to be about 5 or 6 tablespoons of tomato paste. And to this, with the tomato paste, we're also going to add about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. That's kind of going to help loosen up the tomato paste. And so we're going to incorporate really well the tomato paste with all the vegetables and the shells. All right, so we have everything here very well incorporated. We're going to lay this out onto a half sheet pan with parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, that's fine as well. And then we're just going to make sure that this gets really well spread out onto the sheet pan. You want maximum surface area for this. It's really important because you want all these vegetables to caramelize and roast in a short amount of time and not steam. We're going to take the sheet pan with the lobster shells and the aromatic vegetables. We're going to pop it in a 400-degree oven. This happens to be a convect oven. Doesn't make a difference if not. And we're going to roast this for about 15 to 20 minutes.
So this has been in the oven for 20 minutes, as we mentioned earlier. What is the viewer looking for in terms of how do they know that it's ready? If their oven's calibrated a little bit differently, what are they looking for to ensure that this is ready to be made into a stock?
So the most important thing is you'll notice that lobster shells, when they're uncooked, kind of have a dark brown color. When they're heated and cooked, they turn that kind of lobster red. That's from the iodine that's in the shell. And you're looking for kind of a little black tinge on the outside or the fan tail of the lobster, and then just nice coloration on the vegetables themselves.
Okay, so then what do we do with this now?
So then we're going to take this, and if you'll hold that for me.
Is it hot?
I think you'll be all right with that.
All right.
All right.
He has like asbestos hands.
So the neat thing about using parchment paper if it's intact is you can kind of lift it up, use it as a chute, and get everything that you want right into that stock pot. You don't want to lose anything.
And what do you have the heat setting on for this?
So I've got this at like kind of a medium-high setting, and we're just going to let that sizzle a little bit here in the pan, and then we're going to deglaze this with some dry sherry. Any kind of dry sherry will work.
And that's 3 to 4 ounces of dry
3 to 4
sherry?
ounces.
Okay.
And so the important thing with the deglazing is you really, just for a few seconds to a minute, you want to cook off the alcohol so you don't kind of have that sharp alcohol flavor to the bisque. That's really important. And you'll notice that as we add stock to this, the color of these shells are really going to impart a fantastic flavor and color to the stock itself.
And how much chicken stock is that?
So we've got about 2.5 quarts of chicken stock.
Okay, but if the viewer doesn't make their own chicken stock, it's perfectly fine. You can get away with buying store-bought chicken broth.
Yep.
Okay.
And then to that, I have about 8 ounces of canned Roma tomatoes, or San Marzanos are the best.
Those were the canned tomatoes that I talked about in the very beginning that you'll need.
Exactly.
You don't need the entire 28-ounce can. He's saying about 8 or 9 ounces of
right.
the whole tomatoes.
If you like a little more tomato is perfectly fine. And then also I'm going to add to this 3 tablespoons of fresh tarragon leaves and a half a tablespoon of dried thyme.
And so, do we need to bring this to a boil, or do we need to bring it to a simmer? Or
so I would say I always like to bring it up to a rapid simmer, lower it, and just bring it down. This can take as much time as you need. We're using a pot here with a lot of surface area to kind of speed this along. If you had more of a classic stock pot that's taller as opposed to wide, it's going to take longer to reduce that.
And so using, for example, this size of surface area, how long do you think that would take? Like how long does this all need to simmer in order to get the flavor that you're looking for in the stock?
I would say between 30 to 45 minutes, and you're just going to want to taste this as you go, and keep in mind that we're not really going to season this fully until we blend this in the end. All right, for this next process, we're going to take all of the lobster meat that we cleaned from the shells, and we're going to put it in the stock to poach. All right, so these lobster tails are fully poached. I'm going to remove them. We're going to add the cream, as I mentioned before, and we're not using an awful lot of this. This is about 6 ounces of heavy whipping cream, but it's imperative that you add the cream to the stock while it's still simmering and not when it's off the heat. If you do it afterwards, you run the risk of souring the soup. So it's really important that this cream get heated through before you pull it off of the heat.
Okay. My goodness. It smells so good in this kitchen, y'all.
So here we are. We are at the final stage of putting this together. And so we're going to add that to the stock.
Now, how much of the cooked rice did you put in here?
So I put in about a half a cup. And you've got to kind of eye this because you want to get it to the right thickness for you. Some people like a very thick bisque, some people like a thinner bisque. And again, we're adding all of the components into this blender. All of the aromatics, the herb,
the tomato, the carrot, the celery, the shallot, everything except for obviously the lobster tails, the shells rather, that have been removed. And then the lobster's been poached and that's sitting off to the side there. We've already chopped that, ready to go back in.
So we are actually going to add some of the cooked lobster back into the soup when we blend it. I'm going to use about 6 ounces because this is really going to give it some kick.
Something important to remember too is that it's very likely that you don't have a commercial sized blender in your kitchen. You're just working with like a regular sized blender, which is totally fine. But in order to let that steam escape, only fill the blender to halfway. That again allows the steam to escape. Couple that with the fact that the cap is letting the steam out. But if you were to overfill the canister, you could have a real mess on your hands, and it's dangerous because you know this soup is about, I don't know, what, 175 degrees or so?
Absolutely.
So just make sure that you're not overfilling your canister and that you're allowing some steam to escape so that when you turn the blender on and puree it, you don't have a kitchen accident, which again, I've experienced it and it's a mess and it's a nightmare.
And you also always want to start anything that you're blending that's hot. You start off at the slowest speed. And so you're going to turn this on. So I blended this for about 45 seconds.
Okay,
and again,
on high?
Started off on slow and then went to high.
Okay, start on slow, go to high, just to make sure that everything gets pureed evenly and consistently. You know, as you know, a bisque is a smooth, creamy, well, I mean, it's a bisque. I can't really call it a soup. Technically, it's not a soup. But nonetheless, it's a smooth and creamy consistency. And you're probably going to have more in your stock pot, particularly because you're not working with a blender this large. So go ahead and put the finished pureed bisque into another container.
And then finish the process until all of the stock and all the mirepoix is done.
Yeah, just repeat until everything is done.
We have the finished product here. We've put it back on the burner, brought it up to temp just a touch, and then adjusted for seasoning.
Like I've said before, and like he always says, you can always add more salt, but you can't take it away once it's already in there.
So what do you think?
I think it could use a titch of salt, although I think it's pretty perfect, to be honest with you. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt.
I think that's a titch.
And that's the Himalayan salt.
That's the Himalayan salt.
We're probably, what was that, like a teaspoon?
Not even half teaspoon.
All right, 4 cranks of cracked black pepper. So here you still have your amazing lobster meat. Just go ahead and serve this in a bowl. And then just take however much lobster meat that you are willing to sacrifice. If you're having guests over, you might feel like being a little stingy with your guests. And then like
Save the lobster for yourself.
I mean, right? That's absolutely what I would do.
Fresh tarragon for garnish. And there you have it.
Beautiful.
Classic French lobster bisque that I think, quite honestly, Julia Child will be proud to serve.
I think so too. You want to taste it with me?
Sure.
Oh my goodness. It's exquisite.
It's perfect.
It is perfect. Well, thank you very much, Chef.
Well, thank
Did
you
you
for
have fun?
having me. I did. It was a lot of fun doing this. You know, she and I have done some classes together, live, but never a guest on one of your episodes. So a little nervous at first, but we got through it beautifully, and there we are. This could be the beginning of something beautiful.
Let me know in the comments section if you would like to see more episodes with this guy over here. He is a font of knowledge and experience, I will say that. And, you know, we've just had a lot of fun together cooking over the years. So until I see you all again, everybody, make it an awesome, awesome day.
And should we say it together?
Sure.
Cheers. Love y'all.
Love y'all. And for more steakhouse style recipes, check out right here.